Have you had to make difficult decisions yet? Because I know when you have young companies, sometimes you do start with a co-founder. Doug, in your case, it's not the case where you had started with somebody, and then either the business grows faster or in a different direction, and the buddy that you started with isn't the best person to go to the next step. Have you had to deal with that yet?
Yeah, I mean, I think, a lot of entrepreneurs have to deal with that, and, does friendship and business mix? Probably not in all cases, but I think in certain cases, if people are reasonable, and it's like, I think it's like, being parents. It's always sort of like, what's best for the kid, right? So if you have to, do you
have any advice, though, on how, because that can get really tricky.
Yeah.
Even for people that have been in the field like 30 years.
I think that you always have to do what's right for the company. And one of the most important lessons, again, I've learned about being an entrepreneur is just being incredibly self-aware. And you hope that, once a company starts to accelerate and you start to build a real organization, people are self-aware enough to understand their strengths and weaknesses and augment where necessary. And a great, board of directors and advisors helps. I mean,
but you didn't have this stress, like, do I sell? Do I not sell? Do I keep building it? I mean, because there are so many decisions that have to be made, and I'm assuming even if someone is literally your business soulmate, there's still difficult conversations.
Yeah, I mean, you don't start a company to maintain friendships, I don't think.
All right, bail them out, Jared.
If that's your goal.
I don't know if I can bail him out. There's two types of friendships. There's the friendships that you have before you start a company, and there's the friendships that you have, like, internally inside your company. Context, yeah, to be quite honest, I think I've been fortunate enough to the point where, like, at the co-founder level or kind of like all of our senior team members, we've never had like a non-cordial departure or kind of like a very bad parting of ways.
But even when you sold, was there someone in your group who was like, oh, we shouldn't sell this. We should keep building it ourselves?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. There wasn't. And I don't know if I'm surprised by that or not surprised by that. I think it was just a relatively new, number one, doing our own startup was a relatively new concept to us. And then selling our company was like the newest concept to us, and nobody really quite knew what that meant or what that entailed. And I think generally people were very excited about it. I think, a year later, maybe people were like, oh, we're at Microsoft now, and this is very different, for lack of better words. But yeah.
But I think if you align your expectations at the beginning, I mean, hopefully, it doesn't become an issue.
I know, but even when you're sane and reasonable and logical, sometimes the people in the room with you aren't, but that's just life. I'm just curious.
Well, I will say, I sort of have two pieces of advice around co-founders. The first company that I started that I mentioned was sort of more of the travel company. I started with a co-founder from business school, and I did not sort of know the advice. I was so green, I didn't really know the advice that if you're building a software company, you should probably partner with at least one person who can help do some of the building. And I've actually seen this happen to other people too, where it's a couple of neither of the people who want to build software startups. Software, I think, so much is owned by folks who can either design or actually build the back end. And I think to some extent having sort of a strong business lead is important, but if you have a whole team of business leads and nobody who can actually build, like, that's not necessarily a great complementary relationship. So I would say that initially, like, it's important to find co-founders who can complement your own skill set. Now, eventually, my current co-founder is an amazing engineer, and I vote for having a good, strong co-founders that they really keep you sane in times when you feel like you have a limited number of resources and a million things you need to do, and it's nice to have somebody to sort of be in the trenches with you all the time. It's really actually good. If you can find somebody that you can jive with, it's super, super valuable.
But who's actually complementary to the skill set you have to offer. So you don't hire yourself, you hire someone who can complement your skill set.
Exactly.